Imagine standing at the edge of a dark pool, the water so still it seems to hold its breath, waiting for you to speak a vow that could unravel the world. What if the fairy tales we whisper to children are not mere bedtime stories, but the last echoes of rituals so ancient they hum with the weight of forgotten gods? What if a simple promise to a creature from the deep could bind you to a truth older than humanity itself? Welcome to Past Unveiled, where we claw through the dust of history to reveal secrets that refuse to stay silent. In an age when the earth pulsed with raw magic, when every forest and river held a voice, there lived a king whose youngest daughter was a marvel. Her name was whispered as Alara, her beauty so radiant that the morning sun lingered in the sky just to catch her smile. Each dawn, she slipped away from the stone walls of her father's palace, her bare feet threading through dew-soaked grass to a hidden glade. There, an ancient yew tree, its gnarled branches heavy with centuries, stood sentinel over a well. Its waters were black as obsidian, rippling only when the wind dared to touch them. In her hands, Alara cradled a golden sphere, a relic from her mother, who had vanished into the mists of memory. She tossed it skyward, watching it gleam against the canopy, catching it with a laugh that danced through the trees. But one morning, as the first light kissed the leaves, the sphere slipped from her grasp. It arced, glinted, and plunged into the well's depths, swallowed by the dark. Ilara's cry tore through the glade, sharp and raw, her voice a plea to the silent world. The trees seemed to lean closer, their shadows pooling like ink. Then, from the well's edge, a voice slithered forth, low, wet, deliberate. "Why do you weep, daughter of kings?" She froze, her breath caught in her throat. There, perched on a moss-slick stone, was a frog. Its skin glistened like wet jade, its eyes too large, too bright, burning with a knowing that made her skin prickle. "I can fetch your treasure," it said, its wide mouth curling into something not quite a smile. "But you must swear an oath." Ilara's heart pounded. "Name your price," she said, her voice barely steady. "Gold, jewels, my finest silks, anything." The frog's eyes gleamed, unblinking. "I want no trinkets. I would sit at your table, sip from your goblet, and lie beside you in your bed." The words hung heavy, like a storm cloud over the glade. Ilara recoiled, her mind screaming at the thought of this creature, cold, damp, unnatural, claiming such intimacy. But the golden sphere was her last tie to her mother, a tether to a love she could barely recall. Swallowing her fear, she nodded. "I swear it," she whispered. The frog's mouth twitched, and it dove into the well, vanishing into the void. Moments later, it emerged, the golden sphere clutched in its jaws, glinting like a captured star. Ilara snatched it, her heart racing, and fled, the creature's words already dissolving into the wind. She thought herself clever, the frog a fool. She had no intention of keeping her vow. That night, as the palace glowed with candlelight and the scent of roasted venison filled the air, a knock rattled the great hall's door. "Daughter of kings," came a croaking call, "honor your oath." The court fell silent, the clink of goblets stilled. Ilara's face paled, her hands trembling as she met her father's stern gaze. The king, his beard streaked with silver, listened as she stammered out her tale, the well, the frog, the promise she never meant to keep. His eyes darkened, his voice like iron. "A vow is a chain forged in truth. You will not break it. Let the creature in." The heavy doors creaked open, and the frog hopped forward, its damp body leaving faint trails on the polished stone. The courtiers gasped, some stifling laughter, others shrinking back. Ilara's stomach churned as the creature settled beside her at the high table. It ate from her plate, its tongue darting to snatch morsels of bread and meat. It drank from her goblet, its throat pulsing as it swallowed her wine. The hall watched in horrified fascination, whispers rippling like the well's dark water. When the feast ended, the frog's eyes locked on hers. "To your bed, as you swore." Ilara's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She carried the creature upstairs, holding it by 2 fingers as if it were a rotting thing, and set it in a shadowed corner of her chamber. But as she slipped beneath her silken sheets, the frog crept closer, its voice a low rasp. I tire as you do. Place me beside you, or I'll speak to your father." Her temper snapped, a fire kindled by disgust and shame. She sprang from the bed, seized the frog, and hurled it against the stone wall with a cry. "Be silent, you wretched thing." The air shimmered, a pulse of heat and light. The frog's form unraveled, green skin melting into warm flesh, bulging eyes softening into a human gaze. A young man stood before her, tall and radiant, clad in robes that shimmered like moonlight on water. "I was cursed," he said, his voice soft but resonant, "bound by a sorceress's spite. Your promise and your rage have freed me." His name, he said, was Alaric, a prince of a distant realm. The next dawn they wed, the kingdom erupting in celebration, believing the tale ended in love and triumph. But this is no simple fairy tale. The story we know as the Frog Suitor, immortalized by the Brothers Grimm, is a single thread in a tapestry woven across millennia. Its surface is deceptively simple, a princess, a promise, a transformation, but beneath lies a labyrinth of ancient truths. The kiss we associate with the tale, that tender moment of modern retellings, is a late addition, born in the 19th century to soften the story for children. In its raw, original form, there is no kiss, only violence, a hurled frog, a shattered spell. And this tale is not confined to German forests. Its echoes resound across cultures, from the wind-swept moors of Scotland to the sun-scorched plains of India, each version a shard of a greater mystery. In a Scottish tale from the 16th century, known as The Well at the World's End, a young woman named Morna ventures to a sacred spring to fetch healing waters for her dying mother. Her sisters, proud and dismissive, refuse the journey, but Morna's love drives her to the edge of the known world. There, at a well ringed by ancient stones, a frog appears, its voice like gravel over bone. "I will give you the water," it says, "but you must wed me." Desperate, Morna agrees. The frog delivers the water, and her mother is saved. That night, Morna honors her vow, sharing her bed with the creature. In some versions, the spell breaks not with a kiss, but with a blade, the frog's head severed, revealing a prince who leads her to a golden kingdom. In others, the tale darkens, Morna refuses, and the frog returns as a flood, dragging her into the depths. Across Europe, the story shifts, but never strays far from its core. In a Russian variant, a frog clears a stagnant well, making its waters pure for a village on the brink of ruin. In an Italian tale, it retrieves a lost ring from a spring, demanding not just a seat at the table, but a vow of eternal companionship. The details change, a golden sphere, a healing draught, a sacred ring, but the pattern holds. A young woman in need, a well at the edge of the world, a creature demanding intimacy, and a transformation born of sacrifice. Why a well? Why always at the boundary of the known? In ancient Europe, wells were not mere sources of water, they were portals, places, where the mortal world brushed against the divine. Springs and pools were sacred, guarded by spirits or deities, believed to heal, to prophesy, or to demand offerings. At sites like the Chalice Well in England or the Opfermoor in Denmark, archaeologists have unearthed treasures, bronze swords, amber beads, even human remains, cast into the depths as gifts to unseen powers. These were thresholds where the veil was thin, where the otherworld whispered its demands. In Slavic folklore, the vodnik, a water spirit with webbed fingers and a cloak of river weeds, lurked in lakes and streams. Some tales paint him as a collector of souls, trapping them in porcelain jars beneath the water. Others describe him emerging to seek a human bride, offering aid in exchange for a vow. In one haunting story, a woman named Xenia seeks a cure for her dying son at a forest spring. A frog-like figure rises from the water, its eyes like polished stones. "I will give you the cure," it says, "but you must return and live with me." Xenia takes the water, saves her son, but tries to flee her promise. She hides in her village, bolts her door, prays to forgotten gods. But the vodnik comes, first as a suitor, then as a flood, claiming her for the deep. In some versions, she joins him beneath the water, becoming a spirit herself. In others, her betrayal curses her line for generations. These are not mere cautionary tales. They are fragments of ancient water rites, rituals where mortals bargained with the divine. In Celtic tradition, the goddess Brigid was tied to sacred wells, her waters said to heal the sick and inspire poets. Offerings of coins and cloth were left at her springs, a plea for favor. In Norse myth, the Well of Ord, guarded by the Norns, held the threads of fate itself. To drink from it was to glimpse the future, but always at a cost. These wells were not just places, they were thresholds, gateways to the otherworld, where mortals met the divine and paid a price for their gifts. This tale is but one branch of a vast mythic tree, known to folklorists as the animal bridegroom motif, catalogued as tale type ATU 425. Its kin are Legion, Beauty, and the Beast, where a girl's love transforms a monstrous suitor. The Norse East of the Sun, West of the Moon, where a woman journeys to save a bear prince. The Indian tale of the Serpent Prince, where a maiden weds a snake to break a curse. In 2019, researchers at the University of Helsinki used phylogenetic analysis to trace this motif back over 4,000 years, to the Proto-Indo-European peoples who roamed the steppes of Eurasia. Their stories, carried on the tongues of nomads, spread across continents, taking root in countless cultures. In Hindu mythology, the Naga, serpent deities who dwell in jeweled palaces beneath rivers and seas, often take mortal brides. Their unions birth heroes or divine lineages, their stories etched in temple carvings from the Gupta era. In one tale, a princess named Ulupi weds the warrior Arjuna, her serpent form revealed only in moonlight. Their son Niravan becomes a hero of the Mahabharata, proof that mortal and divine can create something greater. In Greek myth, Zeus himself dons animal forms, a swan for Leda, a bull for Europa, to pursue mortal women, their offspring shaping the fates of nations. Even in the Bible, we find whispers of this pattern. In Genesis 6, the sons of God take human wives, birthing the Nephilim, giants and heroes whose origins remain a mystery. Were these sons angels, sky beings, or something stranger? The text does not say, but the echo is unmistakable. A divine male, a mortal woman, a union that births something new. These stories are not mere romance. They are echoes of rituals where mortals joined with the divine, often through sacrifice. In the Greek mystery cults of Dionysus, devotees believed the god could possess them in animal form, bull, goat, or serpent. Women called Maenads danced in ecstatic trances, their bodies trembling with divine presence, their rituals a symbolic union with the god. In ancient Egypt, the frog-headed goddess Hecate presided over birth and renewal, her image carved on amulets to protect mothers and children. Frogs, creatures of both water and land, were potent symbols of transformation, their life cycle a mirror of death and rebirth. To meet a frog at a well was to stand at the edge of creation itself. In some cultures, such unions were not taboo but sacred. In 12th century Ireland, chroniclers recorded a kingship ritual where a chieftain symbolically mated with a white mare, the embodiment of the land's goddess. The mare was slaughtered, her broth consumed, binding the king to the earth's fertility. In Arctic mythology, a woman weds a bear, learning the secrets of the wild. Their children, born of both worlds, become shamans, bridging human and animal realms. Among the Tlingit of North America, clans trace their lineage to a raven or a wolf, their ancestors born from sacred unions with the divine. These Ptolemaic lineages were not metaphors but living truths, tying people to the natural world. The frog suitor's tale carries this weight. In its oldest forms, the transformation is not gentle. The creature is thrown, beheaded, or burned, its destruction birthing something new. This is no anomaly. In ancient myths, creation demands sacrifice. In Babylonian lore, the goddess Tiamat, a primordial sea dragon, births the first gods from the deep. When her children rebel, she rises in fury, spawning monsters to destroy them. The storm god Marduk slays her, splitting her body to form the heavens and earth. Her ribs become the sky's vault, her eyes the Tigris and Euphrates, her tail the Milky Way. In Norse myth, the giant Ymir's corpse is carved into the world, his blood the seas, his bones the mountains. The frog's violent end mirrors this pattern, a sacred act where death begets renewal. But there is more. In some versions of the tale, The frog is not a cursed prince, but a spirit of the well itself, a guardian of its secrets. In a lesser-known Baltic variant, the frog demands not just intimacy, but a vow to protect the spring, to keep its waters pure. When the maiden breaks her promise, the well dries and the land withers, a curse that lingers until her descendants make amends. This echoes ancient water cults, where priestesses tended sacred springs, offering songs and sacrifices to ensure their flow. In pre-Christian Ireland, the Well of Sagai's was said to grant wisdom, but only to those who honored its guardian, a fish, sometimes a frog, that swam in its depths. The frog itself is no ordinary creature. Across cultures, it is a liminal being tied to water and land, life and death. In ancient China, the frog was a symbol of Yin, the feminine force of creation, its image carved on jade amulets to ensure fertility. In Mesoamerican myth, the Aztecs revered the frog as a servant of Tlaloc, the rain god, its croak call for storms. In African folklore, among the Yoruba, frogs are messengers of Ogun, carrying secrets between worlds. To encounter a frog at a well was to meet a herald of the divine, a creature that could cross boundaries mortals could not. This tale may be more than a story of a prince. It may be a memory of how our ancestors understood the world's beginnings. In many cultures, humanity's origins were tied to sacred unions. Among the San people of southern Africa, the first humans were born from a union between a woman and a praying mantis, a trickster god who taught them fire. In Australian Aboriginal lore, the rainbow serpent, a creature of water and earth, shaped the land and birthed its people. These stories answer a primal question: how did we become who we are? For many, the answer was simple: we were changed by what we joined with. Consider the rituals that may lie beneath this tale. In ancient Mesopotamia, the sacred marriage rite saw a king lie with a priestess of Inanna, reenacting the union of heaven and earth to ensure the land's fertility. The act was not mere symbolism, but a cosmic necessity, a moment where mortal and divine merged. In some versions of the frog suitor's tale, the creature's death is not an act of cruelty, but a sacrifice, a ritual killing that mirrors the death of Dumuzi, Inanna's consort, who is slain to renew the cycle of life. The frog's transformation may not be about a prince's redemption, but about creation itself, a new world born from a mortal's pact with the divine. The well, too, carries this weight. In Zoroastrian myth, the sacred spring of Ardvi Sura Anahita was a source of life, its waters tied to the goddess of fertility. To defile it was to invite divine wrath. In ancient Japan, the Shinto kami of springs were honored with offerings of rice and sake, their waters believed to cleanse the soul. These were not just places of water, but of power, where mortals could touch the eternal and pay its price. The frog suitor's tale is no child's fable. It is a relic, a shard of how our ancestors grappled with the mysteries of existence. It speaks of thresholds, of bargains with the unknown, of the cost of creation. It is a story of a girl who stood at the edge of the world and met something other, something that asked for too much and gave everything in return. Next time you hear of a princess and a frog, ask yourself, is this a tale of love or a ritual from the dawn of time? For more journeys into the shadows of history, subscribe to Past Unveiled. Next, we'll unravel the secrets of a strange little man who spins straw into gold and demands a price too steep. What ancient myth hides in his name? Join us to find out.